All right. How are you ladies doing?
We well. And how are you?
I am very well. Thank you. Looking forward to this.
Me too.
Twice.
All right. So just to say hi to everyone who is joining us via Facebook Live. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. We hope that this session will be informative. Most importantly, that you will get to learn more about postpartum depression. So just to introduce myself, I am Lombuso Mthethwa and I am a clinical psychologist. And I am the founder of Moms Club Eswatini. Today with me, I have Phephile and I have Cidalia, who are going to introduce themselves in a minute, but I just want to talk about Moms Club for a minute. Moms Club is a nonprofit organization that I started with the hope of creating a community for mothers so that we can come together and support each other. After having gone through 2 very difficult pregnancies myself, I'm a single mom of 2, I needed a lot of support. So I started thinking, where do I go to for support? And since I couldn't find any, I decided to start one. So talking about issues such as postpartum depression is well within our mandate at Moms Club. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Postpartum depression, what is it? How is it different from depression? And how do you identify it? Most importantly, how do we treat it and help those that we love who are going through it? All right. So first person I want to introduce is Phephile Sukati. I was clinical psychologist. I got that right, Phephile? Phephile, can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you now.
Yes, please introduce yourself to everybody.
Hi everyone, my name is Phephile Sukati. I'm a clinical psychologist based at the National Psychiatric Referral Hospitals.
Thank you for being with us.
I think that, okay, thank you.
The next person I want to introduce is Cidalia de Cruz Gonzalvez. Mrs. Gonzalvez, could you please introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm Cidalia de Cruz Gonzalvez. And like Lombuso said, I am a mom, as we all are here. Yeah, I think that's where I'll leave it for now.
Okay, so let's just get right into it. Hopefully the network will be kind to us, guys. We are in Swaziland, so try and understand. All right, so what is postpartum depression? I'm going to go into what postpartum depression is, and Phephile will go into what the other version of depression is that everybody knows. So postpartum depression is a kind of depression that affects a new mom from 2 to 4 weeks after she has given birth to up to 6 months after giving birth. This kind of depression is usually caused by hormonal changes, body changes, how the mother is viewing pregnancy and how she experiences pregnancy, and it goes on even after birth. So symptoms that usually surround postpartum depression is what we call crying jacks. So our new mom will often just cry for long periods of time. And every time you ask her what is wrong, why she's crying, she either doesn't want to talk about it or she cannot verbalize it into words, but she is really, really sad. That's another symptom. Long periods of sadness and a lot of mood swings. We know pregnant women do go through a lot of hormonal changes, cause the mood swings, but with postpartum depression, they become so severe and so extreme that she can gravitate between being happy and being sad at an extreme version. A lot of insomnia as well. She cannot sleep. She's feeling overwhelmed by being a new mom, and a loss of appetite and an intense detachment from the baby, and what we call not being able to bond with her child. So basically, that is how we define postpartum depression. So now I am going to hand it over to Phephile, who is going to talk to us about depression and clinical depression. Phephile?
Oh, okay, thank you very much. So Lombuso is already what postpartum depression is, but I'll go into explaining as in what is depression, because I know that most of the people, they know depression, they don't know much about postpartum depression. Depression is a mood disorder, and that causes a persistent feeling of sadness and loss of interest. So depression is when we come to the hospital, as we are being diagnosed with major depressive disorder, but we always shorten it to depression. According to DSM, we say there are different symptoms that are them with depression, for depression. And it's not just only the blues when coming to depression, and it's not just only weakness. And you cannot just simply snap out of it because it's something that is clinically, and you need some treatment for it. And coming to the symptoms of it, we say that when you diagnose you with depression, the symptoms need to go for at least for a period of 2 weeks. If it's less than 2 weeks, it's not depression. It's just something, as we call it, acute stress disorder or acute stress reaction. And the symptoms that you need to have to be diagnosed with depression, they need to be at least 4 of the following that I'm going to mention now. Feelings of sadness, tearfulness, and emptiness or hopelessness. Yeah, sometimes you get angry outbursts or frustration, or even over small matters, and loss of interest or pleasure in most of all or normal activities, and also sleep disturbances. And we get patients where they say that they've got insomnia or they sleep a lot, and also poor appetite. It's either you eat a lot or you just lose appetite at all. And there's also tiredness. You feel like you are tired most of the time. When you wake up in the morning, you feel very tired. And there's also anxiety, and there's slow.
Insomnia, poor appetite, not getting joy from things that you would previously get joy from, and struggling to do even normal basic things that you would normally do on a normal basis. So is that basically what you were trying to say, Phephile?
Sorry?
The network took you away from us for a minute. Is that what you're trying to say?
Hello?
Hi, Phephile, we're still here.
Yeah, my network is bad. Sorry.
No, it's
You were
okay.
saying?
I just took over from where you left off when the network went bad in terms of the symptoms.
Oh, okay.
Yes, explaining that basically suffers from depression, loses joy in everything that they do. They would normally find joy in. So they don't find joy in anything at all. And then linking it to postpartum depression, having given birth, a mother would find joy in having her newborn, whereas with postpartum depression, that is not the case. Mothers often feel overwhelmed. They often feel as though they've gotten themselves into something that they basically didn't sign up for. So that was the gist of it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so now we're gonna go over to Cidalia, someone who has gone through exactly what we have just spoken about, and has so graciously agreed to tell us her story, her experience. Anyone that has been to a psychologist or any form of therapy, we always say that people experience things differently. Symptoms manifest differently throughout different people. So Cidalia is going to tell us her experience, and hopefully we can learn something from that. Cidalia, you're still?
Yes, I am.
All
Can
right.
you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Okay, so I'm a mother of 2 now. My firstborn is 4. My secondborn is going to be a year next month. Yeah, when I had my firstborn, it was crazy. It was crazy. I went through all sorts of depression because firstly, I was a single mom. I didn't know what to do, how to handle it. I had never ever experienced what it's like being a mother. I didn't know how I would even start, if I would be a good mother. So I had all these questions. I had all these thoughts. There were so many things running through my mind that I didn't know myself whether I was coming or going. So yeah, the main thing that actually kept me very strong is family. My mom helped me a lot through my pregnancy and after birth as well. During my pregnancy, I was very depressed. I actually wanted to give up on a lot of things, on myself, life, everything. I just had no hope whatsoever. But then, yeah, as time went by, I gave birth. Eventually, I learned how to appreciate my child, love my child, and I started bonding with him. I started enjoying every moment with him. But as time went by, I still did feel that depression. I didn't know how to get over it, how to just swing by it without having to look back and think, oh gosh, am I doing the right thing? Am I being a good mother? Like I said, there were a lot of thoughts running through my mind. So I then realized that if I could actually try and move my focus from the negative, move my focus from things that weren't actually helping me move forward, that's actually what helped me grow stronger as a mother. That's what actually helped me grow as a single mother and learn to accept the fact that I was a single mother. And yeah, the fact that I had my mom, like I said, my family support, that actually also kept me very, very strong. So by isolating myself, that actually made it worse. So I realized that if I was going to associate myself with more family, get myself involved in different activities, that actually helped me a lot. Then yeah, into marriage, I've had my second child, and it was a lot different from my first one. However, I can't say that depression wasn't there. There definitely was depression. I would say majority of women actually experience depression, whether it is through pregnancy or after pregnancy, due to your hormones changing like crazy. So I went through a lot of anxiety, and yeah, it was really crazy. At first I didn't know what I was going to do. I was thinking, okay, I've got two children, how do I handle it? How do I love one more than the other, or how do I love them equally? All those questions run through your mind as a mother. How do you do it? How will I go about every day raising two kids? It hadn't been an easy road. But then again, I used the tactics I used when I had my first child, by shifting my focus from things that would actually move me from growing forward. So that's exactly what I did. That's the way I actually managed to achieve getting through these depression phases. And mind you, like Phephile said, depression goes very long. It's not just a period of one day to a week. It's weeks. Really, it goes for weeks. So also seeking counseling, it really does help, because speaking to somebody that knows, somebody that has dealt with people that have actually gone through such experiences, it also helps a lot, because having a different point of view, a different perspective from different mothers also helps you grow as a mother as well. So yeah, today I can say that I'm successfully grown out of this depression phase, and I'm managing to raise my two kids as a happy parent. So shifting your focus from all the negative things and all the things that don't grow you, that stop you from focusing on being a good parent, being a parent, that's just, yeah, a total distraction. So I think I'll just leave it right there. And yeah, that's basically my experience, how I've overcome my experiences, my bad experiences, and how I'm actually growing on a daily basis.
Thank you for that, Cidalia. Phephile, you are a new mom as well.
Yes.
Yes, you are. How old is the baby?
My baby is 5 months.
5
But
months.
but she's a premature baby. You know, with prematurity, like there's this actual age and adjusted age. Actually, she's 5 months, but adjusted, she's 3 months.
Oh.
Yes.
And you were telling me earlier that you went through some form of depression yourself, just having found out that your baby is premature, that anxiety. Tell us about that.
Oh, okay. It was not clinical depression or postpartum depression per se. I almost got into depression because, like, when I was delivered, I was not ready at the time. I was only 28 weeks pregnant, and the doctor said that in order for you to survive and for the baby to survive, we need to deliver you. So it was sort of like an emergency. And I hadn't bought anything, I hadn't done anything at 28 weeks. Like, so basically, you can imagine the stress and all the anxiety that went through. But I think I was strong enough because I didn't end up getting into depression. And my baby was delivered and she got into ICU. And from being ICU, we had to stay for another month in the hospital. So basically all those things, but with the support that I got from my family and also from my friends, I think I managed to not get into depression though, but I was at the verge of depression.
And being a clinical psychologist yourself, were you able to identify that, now I'm in trouble, I need to?
Yes, I was able to identify that I am about to get into depression. So basically I had to, in society they say, inyanga ayitelaphi. But in my case, I managed to try and get some coping skills to be able to cope with the situation.
Yeah. I think that's the one thing that is mostly common when it comes to postpartum depression. Usually people that go through it, they lack the support. With
The
most
support.
whereby the relationship ended during pregnancy, and they found themselves, now the person that they started this journey with is no longer with them. Now they have to go through this journey on their own. They have to go to clinical visits on their own, antenatal visits on their own. And social media pressures is there, because at the end of the day, no woman wants to raise her child on her own. No woman wishes to be a single mother. And yet circumstances make you find themselves, there you are. You're a single mom and you now have to make it work. The baby way, you are still dealing with the heartbreak of a relationship that just ended. So all of those things can contribute towards you becoming clinically depressed postpartum, basically. So in terms of the support, Cidalia, you mentioned that your mom was very instrumental in helping you through your depression.
Yes.
How receptive were you to her advice?
Pardon?
How receptive were you to her advice? Because my experience is that when most women are going through postpartum depression, it is very difficult for those who love them to get through to them, to try and help them, to try and understand what they're going through. So what was it that made you hear your mom when she was trying to offer you support?
At first, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
So at first, I wasn't interested whatsoever in getting advice from anybody. I would just lock myself away. But then eventually, as I realized that no, I'm just getting worse by the day. Eventually, I just let her in, and she was then able to help me through it because I let her in. It's not easy. It's definitely not easy because you basically in this little world of yours, and you're just so blocked up by all these thoughts, by all these feelings, all these emotions, and you feel like, okay, whatever this person tells me, okay, it's just gonna get in one ear, get out the other ear. But they're not realizing that they're actually trying to help. So yeah, I eventually let her in. And you know, going back to what Phephile was actually saying, regarding her experience about her baby being premature and being in hospital, funny enough, I actually had a similar experience as well with my daughter. We had a lot of complications, and I found myself in hospital as well for almost over a month. She's also a preterm baby, but I can happily say that she's healthy. And through that time, I definitely went through a heavy depression phase. But then I still had my family's support, and most importantly, I also had my husband's support, and that's what also kept me going.
And that is the most important part, because I'm also live, as you know, we're live on Facebook. So I'm taking some of the questions. Some of the ladies want to know, how can you make your husband, because Cidalia, you're married, so are you, Phephile. How do you make your partners understand exactly what you are going through? Because in Swahili, there's now the culture of, you know, I've heard it so many times, whereby, you know, a woman would get pregnant and the relationship would end, and everyone takes it as if it's normal, as if after you give birth, you're going to be fine, everything's going to go back to normal, you and your partner are going to just magically love each other. And it doesn't happen that way. So now, for the men that have wives who are experiencing this, Phephile, what would you say, you know, would be the best way to support women that are going through postpartum depression?
Oh, okay. I think the best way to support someone who's going through postpartum depression is to try and get into that person. Someone who has got depression always close up to him, to herself, doesn't want or allow anyone to come closer to her. So basically, you just need to get some techniques, some traits to get into that person. Remember, I mentioned my own story that I almost got into depression. So I didn't want sort of anyone close to me, but the people who knew me very well, they could see that there's something wrong that's going on. So you just need to be persistent with that person to offer some support that you can offer at that time.
I think as well, the one thing that matters the most is, most moms who are going through postpartum depression, they feel judged, because you know, you're a mom, you're supposed to love your child, you're supposed to bond with your child, and we've all heard the questions, what kind of a mother doesn't do ABCD, or what kind of a mother does ABCD? And I always say, if you ask a question like that to a mom, already she's going to be defensive, because it comes from an accusatory standpoint. Do you understand? Already accusing her of something, so already she'll be defensive and she won't let you in. And we have to acknowledge that with postpartum depression, just like depression, you have no control of what you are feeling. You are in a situation where your mind is telling you that you are stuck, that you are overwhelmed, and that no one can help you. And what we need to do as a support system for someone who's going through that is to let them know that there is help. So I mentioned earlier when we were starting that I had two very, very difficult pregnancies, my daughter and my son. I was sick throughout my pregnancies. So I needed a lot of support. But unfortunately, the relationships ended while I was still pregnant. So I had no support. The only person who was there to support me was my mother. And anything, I was in pain, I was going through heartbreak, I was going through ABCD, and I was young, trying to figure out how am I going to balance this whole single mother thing. it was just a lot. And the one thing that helped me was that my mother didn't try to fix the situation. All she ever, the one thing that I remember was that she said, for every penny, for every tear you have cried, every time you go over in your mind the pain that you are going through, I am willing to match a name of a person who loves you just as much. So in her way, she was trying to say, focus on the positive. But I'm not going to tell you to do that because right now you are in pain. And in as much as we want to tell people to stop crying and live your life and all of those things, at that point in time, they really need to hear is that we are here. Whenever they are ready, we are here to love and support them. And all of my friends, throughout everything that I was going through, they never stopped calling, even though I never returned the calls. I never answered their calls. I never returned their messages. They still called, they still texted, and they still know that I know that they are there. And when I was ready to talk to them, I would talk to them. So I think that's the one thing that we can definitely try and say, that's the one way you can support someone who's going through postpartum depression. Yeah. Okay, so we have another question. So that one of the reasons why we have you here, Phephile, is someone wants to know, in Swaziland, how big or how severe is the issue of postpartum depression? Because we've all seen the articles. Mom dumps baby, mom kills baby, mom leaves baby in hospital. And up until recently, it's only now that in the newspapers, when they ask a psychologist what could contribute to ABCD, you hear words such as postpartum depression being thrown in the mix. As someone who works at the National Psychiatric Referral Hospital, how often do you see women being referred or being or coming for treatment for postpartum depression specifically?
Oh, okay. Even though I don't have the statistics with me, but it's not a lot, I would say. But I think what's making it not to be a lot, because like as I've mentioned that I work at the National Psychiatric Referral Hospital, people, they still have that stigma when coming to the psychiatric hospital. So basically it's not that much. It's not a lot of people that we see when coming to postpartum depression, but we do get cases where the cases that you get to see in the paper, when someone has killed her baby, and we call it postpartum psychosis. And in most cases, those are the cases that are being referred by correctional services for assessment, because that person has been arrested. And if you do an interview and do an assessment, you can see that it started with postpartum depression before it got into postpartum psychosis. Basically, I wouldn't say that we get a lot of them when coming to the postpartum depression, but we do get a lot of them when coming to the postpartum psychosis because they're being brought in by the correctional people.
So we can basically say that what Swaziland needs mostly right now is to intervene before it becomes a postpartum psychosis. Because I think that's where the gap is right now. We see so many articles whereby it's now already over the age where the damage is. Yes, they can still get rehabilitated. Part 2, we'll be talking to the correctional services to see what rehabilitation procedures are there. But before we even get there, how can we as Swaziland help these women? Can you hear me, Phephile?
No, can you please repeat your question? Network,
So
my network is bad, sorry.
Now we are trying to explore in terms of what can we do to intervene before it becomes a postpartum psychosis. One of the questions that the ladies are posing on Facebook right now is, we know some clinics, especially private clinics, have antenatal classes. Do they address postpartum depression? I know that we at Moms Club, we do address it. However, I don't know about Babane Clinic or Women's Clinic or Women and Children in Manzini or any other clinic. Is that a gap that we need to fill, whereby we need to attend to these women before it becomes a postpartum psychosis situation?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think like we as a country, we need to fill up. There is a gap, as you said, Nombuso. There is a gap that needs to be filled out, especially if it can be addressed in the antenatal classes. I think it can be much better because like with the antenatal classes, that's where you are being taught about a lot of things. And if they can, most of the clinics can have the antenatal classes and address the symptoms, how you can see yourself, if you have or some tips that you can use when you.
Okay. And I think the one thing that, as I mentioned, I know private clinics offer that, but we also need to introduce it in the public clinics as well.
In the public, exactly.
Yes, because that's the most important part. Whenever I follow such stories, it is usually women that come from really poor backgrounds that end up with the postpartum psychosis diagnosis, because when you follow the story, they are getting poor support, poor financial support from the fathers of these children. So they find themselves alone, they find themselves depressed, and they find themselves basically not knowing where to go for help. So if we can find a way to introduce antenatal classes in the public hospitals, that could definitely go a long way in terms of helping women. Yeah, and not only just that, but to also encourage fathers to be part of the pregnancy journey, because women need a lot of support during pregnancy. Like Cidalia, you said, we go through a lot of hormonal changes. Your body is trying to adapt to having someone else to host inside your body, to create a life, to take care of that life, to basically provide with that life with everything that they need. So while that body is doing that, a lot of chemical changes, a lot of hormonal changes are happening, which will definitely affect the way that you think. We've all heard of baby brain. We've all heard of, going through that. This one time I spent a good 2 hours looking for my phone. It was in the freezer. My mind was gone. I was just something else. And when I found it, I was mad at everybody because they should have known that it was in the freezer. How could they not know it was in the freezer? So, going through all of that, you need a lot of support. So now imagine the one person who's supposed to be supporting you and loving you is the one person that's causing you pain and harm and hurt. So all of that is enough to drive anyone to the point of depression and eventually psychosis. So we need to now start a culture whereby we involve fathers in the pregnancy journey and subsequently in the newborn stage and raising of children. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, definitely. Definitely.
Because right now with you, Cidalia, how supportive is your husband with your little girl?
Oh, wow. He's amazing. He's amazing. Well, at first, because obviously he's a new dad, it's his first child. He didn't really know how to take everything, like how to handle the baby, how to do this, do that. But then as time went by, obviously you get to learn, you get to grow. But the mere fact that he has been supportive from day one, throughout the entire pregnancy, throughout the whole delivery, everything till this very day, he is still very supportive. And that is one thing that we really need in a partner. We really need to have supportive partners, because once our partners are so supportive, they help us, not just with the baby, but with other little things. It actually helps you as a woman. It actually helps you have that little time to yourself where you'll have a bit of a break. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. So yeah, every woman needs that break once in a while where you just want to breathe. You just want to have that me time for 5-10 minutes. And if you have your husband or the father of your child with you, being supportive, helping you with the child, even if it's helping you in the evening, waking up, or helping you sort the baby out, that's actually very, very, very good. And my husband's actually been a very supportive father.
Hi.
No.
Are we still
Hi,
there?
I'm still here.
Okay, awesome. Yes, Cidalia, sorry, I think I lost you for a minute. You were still
Yes,
saying he's a
network.
new dad, and how is he taking to being a new dad?
At first it was a bit difficult for him, but then
Mm-hmm.
he got the hang of it. He got used to it, and also what made it easier for him as well is the fact that I've actually experienced what it is to look after a child and have a
Mm-hmm.
child since I've had my own before. And
Yeah.
that actually helped him because we working as a team, that actually that's actually what is growing us. So whatever it is that he doesn't understand, I'm there, we're there for
Mm-hmm.
each other. And if I feel that I'm tired or I want to take a break, he will take the baby and he will bond with her. And that's the most important thing, having your child bonding with both parents.
That is truly the most important thing. That is basically what we all strive for. I think that is why post
Hello, are you guys there?
Yes, I'm here.
We've lost Lombuso again.
Cidalia, are you still part of us?
Are you guys there?
Yes, I'm
Yeah,
here.
still here.
We've lost Lombuso.
Yeah, it's the network. It's really, really bad. It's it chose a really bad time to be bad when you're talking about something so serious today.
You know?
Yeah. So, and now, where do women go for help? Now we have basically spoken about postpartum depression, how to identify it. Where do we go for help? So now I know someone who has depression. What is my first step? What would you suggest, Cidalia, as someone who's gone through it? How do I even approach the subject to someone who's going through postpartum depression?
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's really a tough one, especially considering the fact that, like Phephile said, when a person's actually going through that depression, they won't let anybody in. They won't let anybody in, and it's actually very difficult getting through to someone that's going through it. But there's really no harm in trying and in being persistent on assisting them. So I would say, firstly, I'll speak based on what I did. I started shifting my focus. Like I said, shift your focus from the negative, shift your focus from things that only affect your mental state of mind. that affect you as a parent, as a mother. Shift your thoughts from thinking that, okay, my child, I don't love the baby, or I don't feel that bond, or whatever the case. So I think that the most important thing is to start thinking positive firstly. It's very difficult. It's easier said than done. But the most important thing is think positively. And also by shifting your focus, most moms, when we become moms, we focus so much on our babies, and we forget to put ourselves in the mix as well, and say, okay, me as a mom, I need a break. I need to have that 10-minute break. That's what drains us. We need to give ourselves, even if it's to say, I'm going to exercise, or go to the gym, or go do your hair, do your nails, do something that will distract your mind. That's the only way that you can actually shift your focus from all the things that are draining you.
That is such an important point, Cidalia, because I remember after I had my son, going through the most, basically. I couldn't recognize my body. When you look in the mirror and you are like, who is that person staring back at me?
Yeah.
It just did not look beautiful at all. It just was a hot mess. And I didn't feel attractive. I didn't feel beautiful. And I started asking myself, is that why I ended? So many things. So I had to get back to me. I had to find a way to find me again, to find myself when I'm looking in the mirror, to see me again. And all of those things that you keep mentioning are very, very important, to find time for yourself. I think it was 2 weeks after I had my son, very soon after I had my son, a friend of mine was like, okay, that's it, we're going for drinks. And I'm like, what? I have a baby. People that have babies don't go for drinks. They take care of babies. And she said, no, but you are going for a drink because you need it. It has been a long 9 months and you need a drink. You look like you need a drink, and let's just go, And that 30 minutes saved it. It felt like I had gone on vacation for 2 months. It saved my life. Go to Zuluini, not even far, Babane Zuluini, less than 10 minutes. And, I felt as though I had been refreshed. It didn't solve all my problems, definitely not. But that short amount of time of getting back to me and spending time with other adults, and, talking about things other than babies and all, it really gave me the refresher that I needed at that point in time. Phephile, what would you add to that?
I think basically what Cidalia has mentioned earlier on, that is in trying to replace the negative thoughts with the positive thoughts, it really helps. And also getting time. And they usually say, like, when the baby sleep, also sleep, because you also need to refresh, as into refresh as well. So basically, those are the main important thing that you need to try and get yourself. Don't make major changes. Don't want to be the perfect mom. Just take it one step at a time, because if you want to be this perfect mom and you want to make major changes, you'll get into this depression and you won't be able to come out of the depression. Talk to other people about how you are feeling at that time. Do try to open up, maybe identify someone that you trust, that you can be able to talk to, and talk about your feelings, because that's very important, to express how you are feeling at that time.
Yeah,
And
that is so important. Yeah.
And also this whole thing of support groups, they're very, very important. Join a support group. If there is any support group around you or near you, do join that support group, because you, in your corner, in your house, you think that you are the only one isn't faced with that situation. But when you join a support group, you'll see that you are not alone, and you get the support that you need.
That is so true. And, to basically give yourself a break. I don't know why we put so much pressure on ourselves to snap back and get our body back. After giving birth, my stomach is supposed to look flat or something like that. And that's unrealistic. We need to set realistic goals so that we just can break, basically. I mean, if you are able to get your body back immediately after giving birth, kudos to you, that is great. But let us not put pressure on each other. basically. You
Yeah.
are a mom and you are allowed to be tired. You are allowed to need a break every now and then. But most important, you know, this mom thing is a trial and error thing, basically. There is no handbook. I know there are so many self-help books and everything, but your baby is your baby, you know? You are allowed to make mistakes, to do ABCD, so don't be so hard on yourself. I think that's the one important thing that we need to take away from that.
Yeah.
So we also have Phephile on Facebook. This one is mostly on the long-term effects of those women that have been identified to have postpartum psychosis. So after correctional services, what kind of treatment or program is usually do you know?
Oh, okay. So it's not only just the postpartum psychosis that has got long-term effects, even the postpartum depression, it does have long-term effects. Because like, you know, when you have this postpartum depression, it disrupts the bonding between the mother and the child, which is very, very important. If the bond is no longer there, this child will grow up with something else, will later on maybe have some psychological issues. So basically, those are the things that need to be addressed. Like you need to treat your depression so that you can have that bond with your child to try and avoid the long-term psychological issues. And the psychological issues that can come out from that, it can be substance abuse, as in that the child will later on be an abuser or be addicted to substances. The child can later on have his or her own depression or can have any other psychological issues.
Yeah, that is so true. We look at the long-term effects, and not just only on us, but also on the children as well. Because if you don't heal what you are going through, it will only spill onto someone else. I usually make the simile of, you know, a bottle in a deep freezer. Whenever it bursts, it destroys everything else in there. So if you don't treat whatever is hurting you, it will only spill on to those that are close to you. And the most closest person at this point in time will be your child. Because if you don't heal it, it will make co-parenting or any form of parenting with the person that hurt you that much more difficult. Yeah. So talking about dads, we have a question on Facebook in terms of, so we acknowledge that with postpartum depression, it relies a lot on the relationship that you have with the father of your child. Are there any classes or interim classes that dads can attend so that they can know about these things and not basically contribute towards postpartum depression? Partners then suffer thereafter? Or is it a gap? Is it another gap that we are identifying right now?
I would say it's a gap per se. But recently on Facebook, I saw something. I think there's an organization that is trying to close up that gap. It's called Kwaka Invota. So they were circulating a poster that was saying something that they'll be teaching as in new fathers about parenting, something like that. But it's still a gap in Swaziland.
It is a major gap.
Yeah, it is.
When I was going through antenatal classes, my baby daddy at that time used to go with me, and those were very, very helpful in terms of just understanding pregnancy, understanding changes, what women go through. And I think while we are introducing antenatal classes, we have to make it welcoming for the fathers as well. We have to now move away from the thing of pregnancy being only a mother's business, you know, making it a partner's situation, regardless of what is going on in that relationship. I think fathers will be that much more understanding, empathetic, if they understood what women go through during pregnancy and after giving birth. Can you hear me? Phephile, you spoke about support groups. Do you know of any support groups that are available for women who are going through postpartum depression or just depression. Phephile, can you hear me? Cidalia, earlier you spoke about supports. Was there any support group that you were a part of that helped you? Or what did your support system look like besides your mother?
Geez, no, I didn't actually go to any support group. I guess the only support group I went to was church. So yeah, I just did church. Church actually helped me a lot, mind you. And yeah, my mom. That was mainly during my first pregnancy, my first child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Phephile, you don't know of any support groups that are available for women who are going through depression or postpartum depression?
None. I think that's another gap, number. So we've got a lot of gaps in the mental health.
Yeah.
It's another gap that we have like in the country.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
A huge one.
A huge gap, a huge gap. And you know,
Yeah.
organizations such as Moms Club try to close those gaps, but without information and, you know, sensitization and basically awareness, it becomes a bit difficult. So what we need to do is basically do things to constantly educate and let people know that such avenues are a gap in the country and that we need to there's still a shame factor that surrounds having a miscarriage, where women feel like they need to blame themselves, like it was their fault that they lost this child. So when they do get pregnant again, they have a lot of fear to attaching to the baby. They try to distance themselves from loving the baby too much. What if something happens? What if I don't carry the baby to term? What if ABCD happens? So they're always guarded and they feel as though they need to detach from the child just in case something bad happens. That on its own, the fact that we don't talk carriages, the fact that we don't talk about the fact that women lose babies all the time contributes to postpartum depression. Wouldn't you say so, Phephile, from a clinical standpoint?
I would agree with you. I would agree with you, Lombuso. That is, and those are the issues that they need to be addressed. And in the Swazi context, you know, this thing of mental health, I think it's still new to people, or they still stigmatize it. Because when you have had a miscarriage, you need to go for counseling because it's a traumatic event that has happened to you. And in counseling, that's where you're going to be able to express your feelings and also be educated on how to go about, and also given tips on how to cope with life. And if you don't address the issues that you had when you had a miscarriage, definitely you'll end up into postpartum depression.
Yeah, and it definitely does. It definitely does, because like you say, you don't want to talk about it. I remember this one time, a long time ago, I was watching how I got introduced to postpartum depression. Basically, I was still a student. I didn't even know this word even existed. Diagnosed with postpartum depression and had almost killed her child. And she says the biggest fear was that what had happened, she had had about 6 miscarriages before this child. And she was so scared that this child died that she was fearful of what she might do to the child. So in her way, she was trying to save her child from herself, basically. So you can see that she had convinced herself so much that the miscarriages were her fault that she now feared that she was a danger to her own child, that she felt as though she didn't deserve to become a mother. And those are the things that we need to talk about. We need to help women heal from. In fact, we need to start a program where a woman goes through a miscarriage. She has to go through some form of counseling. There's no way she can just be okay with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are the things that we feel like Swaziland still has a long way to go. All right, so our hour is almost up. Is this one last thing you would like to say to our audience, Phephile?
Oh, okay, I would say, like, if you earlier on we did mention like the symptoms of postpartum depression, and also we did mention like symptoms of depression. If you feel like there's anything, you have some of the symptoms, we always do encourage people to seek some professional help. Don't take this thing because it debilitates you that you're gonna keep it to yourself. This is something that needs to be treated clinically because it's clinical depression. So basically it needs to be treated by professional people. And if it happens that you talk to someone about your issues, do get someone that you trust very much, and someone who's not gonna go around talking about your issues, because that person, if he or she talks about your issues, will make your depression worse.
Yeah.
So,
That is so
in short,
true.
I'm saying that there is treatment for depression. Depression is a treatable condition. If it happens that you are being diagnosed with depression and you are started on any form of antidepressants, which is the medication and psychotherapy, there'll come a point in time where you will stop because it's a treatable condition. It's unlike the other mental conditions where it's a lifelong thing that you take your medication for almost the rest of your life. But when coming to depression, is a treatable condition. There comes a point in time where you're being stopped on the medication and you're also being stopped on any form of psychotherapy.
That is so true. And I feel as though the one most important thing that we also need to take away from this is the fact that in as much as either by a medical professional in terms of a psychiatrist or a clinical psychologist. So in your effort of trying to help someone, let's try and just diagnosing people anywhere that they go, because that becomes a situation whereby you are Googling your symptoms and then you convince yourself that this is what you have. So even if you do fear that this is something that someone you know is going through, it is important that you find the right people to help. As we say, we are diagnosing psychological issues. We look at duration, like Phephile said, we will say it has to be at least 2 weeks or above. We look at the severity in terms of the symptoms. What are you going through that would classify it as depression? And then we also look at how long you've been experiencing those things in terms of the cause and the duration of it. So diagnosing someone with clinical depression or postpartum depression is not just checking off a list. It has to be done by someone who is educated and someone that can help that person in terms of what steps they need to take next. We've lost Cidalia, unfortunately, and our hour is up. So I just wanted to say thank you so much to everyone called in today and all of your questions. I hope we were able to answer most of them. For those that we haven't quite answered, I'm still going to carry on the conversation on Facebook, and Phephile is available as well to help carry on the conversation. But thank you so much for tuning in today. Thank you so much for listening in, and I hope that this presentation has been very helpful. If anyone you know is experiencing any of the symptoms we have discussed today, kindly contact us. Phephile is at the National Psychiatric Referral Hospital in Manzini. That's where they can find her. I can be found on any of my social network pages, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And there are so many educated psychologists in Swaziland that we can definitely refer you to. So there is help. Someone was asking about the people in the outskirts of Swaziland who are not particularly in town. And there are psychologists there as well. Nhlangano, Pick Speak, Lavumisa. We know someone somewhere. So there is help wherever you are. It's just a matter of us knowing that you need help and us getting that help to you. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for tuning in. And thank you so much for your questions. We hope that we have somehow helped you understand a bit more what postpartum depression is. Phephile, would you like to add something before we say goodbye to everyone?
No.
Well, that is it from us. Thank you so much again. Remember, my name is Lombuso Mthethwa and Moms Club Eswatini. We offer help to all mothers. For you, all you have to do is just follow our pages and request help and we'll get it to you. Thank you so much. Happiness, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your Friday.